Welcome to the Twitter Learning Series. This is the first video and it's titled, What is Twitter? In this video we'd like to introduce you to Twitter, we'd like to tour a typical Twitter business page, and then we'll do an overview of the other videos that are in the Twitter Learning Series. So let's get started. So here's some demographic information about Twitter. Think of having conversations in 140 character bursts. That's a pretty short sentence, so you've got to be exact. Twitter's an instant and immediate conversation channel. The largest audience segment is 25 to 34 years old. There's more females than males. It's surprising, but the U.S. ranks 17th in Twitter use. Venezuela is first. The top city in the U.S. is New York City. The top income range is $25,000 to $50,000. And most members in the Twitter universe have some college. So now let's take a tour of a typical Twitter business page. You can see by the bubbles here, we can tell how the page is laid out. We've got some stats in the upper left-hand corner that tell us how many tweets we've issued, how many people we're following, and how many people are following us. We also have an open space where we can compose a new tweet. And then we've got some suggestions on who to follow. Twitter watches your conversation and then tries to figure out people that are of the same mindset. You can also see that there's a trend box in the lower left. These are the trends, these are the hot topics that most people are talking about. We'll talk about starting your own trends later. And then you can see that really the whole right column of the page is taken up with the conversation stream. So let's look at the menu items that are in the upper left-hand corner. The Connect tab lets you review interactions, mentions, recent follows, and retweets. Using the Connection tab, you're able to view who has favorited or retweeted your tweets, who has recently followed you, and all of your replies and @mentions. Now let's look at the next menu command over, which is called Discover. The Discover tab is where you'll find stories, who to follow, activities, how to find friends, and how to browse categories. The Discover tab is all about, you guessed it, discovering new and engaging things to do on Twitter. The next menu over is Me. This is where you can review and edit your profile, access your direct messages, lists, and more. I can mention it here. A direct message is where somebody specifically only sends the message to you. No one else can see it or read it. It's private. So if we go ahead and turn to the next slide, we can see that Twitter has a great search utility. I can find a person, a trend, or a subject that interests me. The next little wheel over is the settings icon, where you can edit your profile, check or send direct messages, create lists, learn keyboard shortcuts, or change your account settings. The next icon over is where you would choose to pen your first tweet. So if we go ahead and look at what's involved in tweeting, that's your 140 character message, you can see there's a message area. There's also a place where you can add an image or a photo. You can let the people know where you're tweeting from, your geographic location. And then you've got the button in the lower right-hand corner to basically publish the tweet. So here we are at a wrap-up. We've introduced you to Twitter. We've toured a typical Twitter business page. And now let's take a minute and look over the Twitter Learning Series. We've just covered the first video, and that's called What is Twitter? The next one is titled Getting Started with Twitter, where we'll create your business page and we'll talk about managing that page as well. The third video is called Attracting an Audience. This is where we'll talk about reaching your audience, starting the conversation, and also advertising on Twitter. The last video is called The Business Side, where we want to talk about Twitter analytics, connecting different communities together, business models, where we can look and see, well, how does a nonprofit use Twitter versus, let's say, a retail operation? And then the last thing we'll talk about is a starting point. So let's say you've decided, hey, Twitter's for me, but how do I get started? So next, in video number 2, as I've just mentioned, we'll talk about creating your business page and then managing that page. Thanks for listening.